when I saw The Sixth Sense for the first time. I want to know what it was like to be shooting that in your tighty whities. Like, what do you remember of shooting that?
Well, I remember one thing. When I pitched not being clothed, I pitched no tighty whities either.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah. I had actually pitched it to Bruce Willis first and said, I think my character should be nude. And he was like, what?
Hello, and welcome to another new episode of Obsessed the Podcast. I am Kevin Fallon, here to guide you through all the TV shows, movies, and celebrity hoopla that we think is all unmissable. And today, I am coming to you as Bad Bunny's new biggest fan. My God, it's been days, and I have not stopped watching that Super Bowl halftime show on repeat and repeat and repeat. Oh my God, I cannot get enough of it. It was so good. It was exactly what we needed at that moment. I, for such a flash, felt proud to be American again. Could you imagine? And felt sexy. Do you remember when it felt sexy to be American? Bad Bunny made me feel that way again. It was the exact right tone, the exact right message, the exact right celebration at a moment when we needed it. And I'm so pissed off at all those MAGA idiots who tried to start a culture war about this, trying to make it seem like it would be un-American for a Spanish language person to perform at the halftime show, as if there's some sort of traditional moral value behind commercials and corporate sponsorships and concussions that the MAGA has some sort of copyright over with the Super Bowl. It was so vibrant. It was such a privilege to watch him take us through this dance tour of Latin American culture, the way that people love their community, their neighborhood, their just vivacious way of living at a time when they could have had some sort of huge protest at the Super Bowl. He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to show you beaten down people. I'm going to show you them thriving. It was so joyous. I was so moved. It was such a fun, amazing Super Bowl. And to people like Brett Favre, who said things like, oh, I don't know his music, so I'm going to tune into this Turning Point USA halftime show instead. What a fool. Am I to believe that Brett Favre is some sort of connoisseur of Lady Gaga's music? And so when she did the Super Bowl, he was like, I'm going to stay here for the deep cuts. Does he love Katy Perry? And so he wasn't going to do a protest then? It was so calculated and so bigoted and so ignorant. And to people like Donald Trump, who was like, we don't understand what he's saying. Sir, I watch you on TV all day, every day. I never have any idea what you are saying. I just purchased a ticket to see your wife, Melania, in a documentary about her life. She's an immigrant whose English is a second language of hers. Her director said that he had a hard time understanding what she was saying. That is such a lazy excuse for criticizing Bad Bunny, to say that just because he's speaking in Spanish, that it's irrelevant. I am a person who does not know a lyric to any song in the world. We are America. Here we say, hold me closer, Tony Danza. Not Tiny Dancer, Tony Danza. We don't know lyrics. It doesn't matter. It's music. It's a vibe. It is a way to feel like you're a part of something, to feel connected to people. All of this culture war stuff was so nonsensical, and I'm so glad that Bad Bunny put on a performance that just shut those idiots up. Anyway, speaking of the Super Bowl, our guest today is a person that I cannot believe I got to talk to. It is Donnie Wahlberg, who, of course, is one of the original members of New Kids on the Block, the original boy band. He's also the star of Boston Blue, the spinoff of Blue Bloods, which is, of course, the defining show of the last 10 years. It's a show that I really thought was going to go on forever. So I'm so glad that once it was canceled, Donnie came back with Boston Blue. We talk about what actually was the very first pop star performance at the Super Bowl that he was a part of. New Kids on the Block was the very first pop band to perform the Super Bowl halftime show. We talk about that, we talk about Blue Bloods, we talk about Boston Blue, and we have a very, very fun conversation about one of the foundational movies of my life, The Sixth Sense. I'm so excited for you to hear my interview with Donnie, and here it is, my conversation with Donnie Wahlberg. Hello, Donnie Wahlberg, how are you?
I'm good. I'm warm inside, but I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just took a quick break from watching the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show for the 15th time to chat with you.
Nice.
It was so good. Did you watch it?
I watched the game and halftime and the game. As a Patriots fan, it was a little rough.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it must have been a rough night.
Yeah, the halftime was a good little party in between all the misery of the game. So yeah, it was a nice little. It was a respite from the agony of the game.
Oh, for sure. And as I recently learned, it's the 35th anniversary of when you performed at the Super Bowl halftime show back in 1991, which is
Yeah.
a video that I just revisited and has to be seen to be believed, I think. It's you and New Kids on the Block performing with about 3,000 children in a Disney It's a Small World kind of landscape with inflatable Mickey Mouses and Tigger running around.
This was a thing. This
Yeah.
was a thing. So yeah, it was hard to believe. The story is one that some people, like you just said, are just discovering. But at the time when we did it, excuse me, in 1990, it was really the first of what we've come to know as the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah.
We were approached by the NFL and Disney to do the first major pop artist halftime show, and it was built around "It's a Small World" and Disney theme and yada yada. And I was like, okay, we're here. We are. We're a boy band and teeny boppers, and we're trying to fight for our credibility. But now we're gonna, perform at halftime of a football game. I don't know how that's gonna go over, but we were game to try it, and we did it, and it was interrupted.
Yes.
The reason you don't know about it, you may be too young to know about it, Devin. So I mean, that just could be why you didn't see it the first time. Um, the Gulf War had broken out, so the halftime was preempted by a speech by President Bush Sr.
Yes.
And so they moved the halftime show till after the football game. And so most people didn't see the halftime show, didn't know what ever occurred, didn't know it ever existed, and didn't know that it was really the first of its kind. So
Hmm.
for me, I always want to watch the halftime shows because I want to see, like, compare New Kids to everyone else.
It was way different from the Bad Bunny thing that I just watched. I'll
I
say
don't
that
think we
much.
had the budget that everyone has nowadays. That's really the key, is we didn't have the same budget.
But you're making a very good point. It was the first time there was this idea of bringing in a major pop relevant act. Like you were 2 years ahead of that huge Michael Jackson halftime show that everyone remembers. Like New Kids was the first one. And it must have been
Yeah.
surreal to both be that and then have the stagecraft be something so strangely wholesome and
Right.
Disney whimsical. And I mean, they literally play It's a Small World in the middle of the performance.
The crazy thing is, the next night after the game, we were flying to LA to do the American Music Awards. And we did a massive performance with like 30 dancers, and it was the total opposite. It was like the kids, like, being tough. And we had J.Lo dance with us. That was like
Oh my
her
gosh.
first. She talked about this on like Jay Leno or some talk show. She referenced that it was like her first big break was dancing with us on the AMAs. Keenan Ivory Wayans was the host that night, and they met after the show. And not long after, she was a fly girl.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, she was incredible. I remember my mom watched the performance and said, "Who is that girl in the center dancing? She's a superstar." My mom literally said that.
Gosh, that was like a historic weekend in every way.
Yeah, she just exploded off the screen. I mean, amongst a whole troop of dancers and five new kids. I mean, she just was like superstar. So yeah, so that we were really focused on that. I remember, you want to hear a crazy story, is I was in New York preparing that performance while the rest of the new kids were down rehearsing for the Super Bowl. So imagine a member of the band not being at the Super Bowl halftime
That's
rehearsals.
wild.
I didn't even go. I went, and the night before, and the new kids said, "All right, we'll show you where your marks are, and just follow us."
No big
Because I
deal.
was so busy working on that AMA's performance.
Well, as the Daily Beast and really entertainment industry's foremost Jennifer Lopez apologist, fan, champion, lover, I have to give you all the thanks in the world for launching the career of my beloved.
Well, I would say we gave her an opportunity. I don't know that anyone could be responsible for launching her career besides her. I mean, she was an undeniable force, literally at the first rehearsals. I mean, you could just see, just like, we're in the presence of someone who's really, really talented
Yeah.
and motivated and driven and professional and all the things. So yeah, she was we gave her a chance, but she would not be denied. She would have found her way, whether it was through that opportunity or something else.
There's one other moment from that apparently very historical weekend 35 years ago, which is that I believe was the same Super Bowl that Whitney Houston sang that national anthem that has now become like the most iconic version ever. Like that must have been insane to be a part of that piece of not just like Super Bowl history, but American history too.
We were standing on the field when she
Wow.
sang it. It was breathtaking, and yeah, that was quite an experience. Again, it was really years before halftime became what it is. But to be part of that moment and to be there, watch, not part of it, we were just witnesses to it, to Whitney's singing. I mean, it was just absolutely breathtaking. But that whole experience of that game was so fun. There was, Whitney, there was the game itself, and, bumping into all these, legendary football players and talking to them. And, and the game was incredible. And, it was like, oh yeah, we're going to perform at halftime, right? It's like, again, it was before it became such a thing, right? So it was really ahead of its time, and so much so that there's not even a world that I could imagine where we're not rehearsing for a year in advance, right? We
Yes.
knew Bad Bunny was performing like months ago, and I'm pretty certain he's been in a room rehearsing ever since, right? That's how
Exactly.
important of a performance it is. So it's a big deal. Somehow we are the forefathers of it, but it's not in all the in all the Super Bowl history books.
The new kids and the forefathers. I like that that connection.
Yeah, yeah,
So I want to also congratulate you on what I believe is maybe your 47th or 48th season playing Danny Reagan. I mean,
yeah,
it's absolutely wild to get to play a character for as long as you have now that Boston Blue is coming back for its for the second part of its first season, correct?
yeah. It's been picked up for a second season, but what we'll be watching now is the second half of the first season, and it's. I thought I'd be playing Danny Reagan for another decade. I just thought it would be in New York and would be with the Reagan family, and this change of scenery and change of cities was not on my bingo card a couple of years ago, but it certainly gives me a chance to keep playing Danny Reagan, and I think in many ways, it's given Danny a chance to grow and evolve and made it more fun and made it a more challenging character. Of course, I had a lot of work to do on Blue Bloods and, did 99% of my own stunts and all the things and really gave a lot of myself to that character. But now it's a different challenge, right? He's in a different world and he's a guest in a new city, and he's a guest at somebody else's dinner table, and no matter how hot-headed he can be or opinionated he can be, when you're a guest in someone's house, you have to show respect, and it's been fun. It's been really fun to evolve the character and to build a relationship, I think, with the character of his son that I didn't always get a chance to do on Blue Bloods.
And I know, I mean, I live in New York, so I'm very keenly aware of a lifelong, decades long, kind of like forever long turf war between people in New York City and people in Boston. So I imagine there must have been a strong reaction from Blue Bloods fans about this character going to Boston, but also you're a Boston guy. So I'm curious what it was like to weather the like semi discourse about is Danny being a traitor by leaving Brooklyn to go to Boston, but also maybe for you being like, hey, I'm happy to be in Boston. I'm a Boston guy.
Well, I get to play a New Yorker in Boston, so I have to always be the butt of the jokes that I'm supposed to be telling, right? So,
Yeah.
like, we have Jaylen Brown from the Celtics come on for an episode, and him and Danny don't really hit it off. And, in real life, I'm friends with Jaylen. It's like I love the guy, and now I have to sort of be the butt of the joke with him. And it's it's definitely a lot of fun. Yes, of course, there are people who say, Danny would never leave New York and that wouldn't happen. But all I can say to them is he did. He did leave New York. And yeah, and I think going there to be with his son is a good reason. I have two sons. One of them is actually Sean Reagan's age. And he's asked me on plenty of occasions, when will you move back to LA, Dad? I want to be closer to you.
Mm.
And yeah, during his college years, he didn't want anything to do with me, and now he does. And so to me, I see it in real life every day. But I also see Danny making friends with someone who has a similar experience in law enforcement. They come from a law enforcement family. They have similar family traditions. It's Danny's moved into a world where, yes, the city feels nothing like home, but the people he's in the city with help him feel like he's at home and help
Mhm.
him not miss home so much. So, yes, I've heard it all. Bostonians are happy that we're doing a show about Boston and that Donnie gets to do a Boston show. But, they also find it ironic that I have to play a New Yorker, and they get a lot of joy in seeing me get, picked on a lot by the Bostonians. And yeah, New Yorkers, sure, I'm sure there's a lot of different emotions, but I think at the end of the day, we've done a good job with this show. I think we've have so many Easter eggs, so many nods to Blue Bloods, so many guests from Blue Bloods showing up and plans for more. And if you watch any given episode, there'll be some Easter egg about Blue Bloods in it, and it's been really fun. I think we've been very fortunate to keep the Blue Bloods world alive, and I think we plan to keep on doing that as best we can.
Does it pain you at all to be in Boston and not being able to fully lean in to your Boston accent?
It sneaks out sometimes. I'm not surrounded by New Yorkers anymore. So every
Mhm.
now and again, I'm like, I thought this accent was long gone and hard to find. It keeps sneaking out. And I have to remind myself, it's not coffee, it's coffee.
Yeah.
So I have to catch myself not slipping out of my New York. But it's fun. It gives the crew a laugh, and it helps the other actors who are doing Boston accents to know if they're on the right track or not when mine sneaks out.
Yeah. And it's really nice that you found a great place for Danny's story to land in Boston because I think honestly the cancellation of Blue Bloods ranks among the most shocking of all time. It was such a popular show, had been running for so long, it was doing well in ratings. I mean, the people who watched it were so fervent about it. Like that must have been such a shocking thing for you to weather when that happened because it made no sense to me as a person who covers the industry. I can't imagine what it was like for you as a person who was on the show that was receiving that attention.
Yeah, I think, well, thank you for saying that. And I think it was shocking to us as well. Now that said, I want to be realistic because it's a tremendous gift and a blessing to have done a TV show for that long, right? And there were many people around the show who didn't think it would last 2 years or two Fridays, never mind 14 years. I was actually one of the optimists who thought it would be running for a very long time,
Mhm.
and did not expect it to end anytime soon. I think, I think first of all, for anyone out there who is disappointed that it ended, nobody was more disappointed than me. Nobody shed more tears than me. Nobody was shocked more than me, and nobody fought harder to keep the show on the air than me. I know we all did as a cast, and for our crew and for each other and for the fans, we all wanted to keep it on the air. Um, it just wasn't meant to be, and sometimes, I think the industry's gone through a lot in the last few years. It's like I'm sure you know this too, as someone who's covers this industry. It's like I think CBS made like 3 pilots last year.
Mhm.
It's like, or maybe 4, right? When Blue Bloods was made, there were probably 30
Right.
pilots made, right? And we were one of the very few to be lucky enough to get on the air. And I think whether it was COVID, whether it was the economy, whether it was the strikes, whether it was a combination of all of them, and streaming and sort of learning that business, the way the industry works now has changed. It's changed dramatically, and there aren't as how many shows are not filming in LA anymore, right? LA used to be
Yeah.
where everyone went to work, and now people in LA are like, can I get a job, as your assistant, who used to produce TV
Yeah,
shows.
geez.
It's really changed, and so I think as fans, we look at we've lost our show. As people in the industry, as a member of that show, it was heartbreaking to lose that show,
Hmm.
right? I stopped being able to work with friends, and our crew lost their jobs. It's like that. I know all of us in the cast felt a personal responsibility for that. When our crew lost their jobs, I felt like I let them down personally.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
They show up, and we all work hard together every day in the snow and the rain and you name it, and we're fighting for this show, and it gets canceled. It's hard to not feel like I let people down. Sorry, it's a little emotional for me.
Of course.
And I think we all felt that way as a cast, and um, it was shocking, and through it came this amazing opportunity. And I like to think of it as an opportunity to not only build this new show, a new world, and show new characters and build an amazing new family, but it also is a chance for us to keep that legacy alive.
And I think one of the reasons why it hit so hard for a lot of people, and especially its fans, is because, and I mean this in the most complimentary way and as a badge of honor, the Blue Bloods was a kind of show that, famously for people my age and younger, it was a show that our parents watched, that our grandparents watched. And my parents and my grandparents don't watch a lot of shows. And it's a huge thing to have created a loyalty among that demographic. And those people would turn out for each Friday night, and they felt seen by the dinners that the family was having together. They would follow to a spinoff that's happening right now. I think the fact that this was a show that recognized the value of that, like, often dismissed parents, grandparents kind of type of show, was kind of its like calling card.
Yeah. And ironically, in an industry where the target viewership is somewhere unrelated to that, right? Most television shows are looking for that, was it 18 to 45 demographic of viewers, right? And
Yeah.
here this show kind of turned that upside down. Blue Bloods definitely turned that upside down. And I think because of what you just said, defied the odds. Ironically, that's why it defied the odds and
Yeah.
lasted so long, right? It in lasting so long. That I think overlooked viewership that you're talking about didn't really have their shows, and they got it, and it became generational, right?
Hmm.
You may have watched it with a parent.
Of
I'd
course.
go and talk to my mom about it, and I can't tell you how many actors came on the show and said, "Oh my God, my mom loves this show. My dad loves this show. They're gonna be thrilled that I'm on it," right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of that, and it did become generational, and the audience expanded beyond just our parents watching it. And again, it also, when a show's on that long, it doesn't become less expensive to make. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
more and more and more and more expensive to make. And uh, as I said, I wish the show was still on the air. I'm certainly happy that Boston Blue is on the air, and I love the show. I love our
Yeah.
cast. I love the stories we're telling. I love that we have so many surprises from Blue Bloods, and we are finding a way to keep Blue Bloods alive. But yes, there was a. It was heartbreaking on a lot of levels to say goodbye to Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
If I didn't care for Blue Bloods so much, I wouldn't be doing Boston Blue. And it's easy to see it the opposite way from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but this was the only way that Danny Reagan could continue being on television, and therefore any other Reagan by extension can stay on television. This was the only way. And if I really love Blue Bloods as much as I said, then I think it's my responsibility to carry on the legacy however we can in a way that's done well,
Mm-hmm.
that is quality and honors the first show and the show whose shoulders we stand on, right? But also to make it our own show.
Mm-hmm.
Can't just make it Blue Bloods Part Two. We have to make it our own show, and we have. I think we have an incredible cast, a cast that not only makes the show great, but legitimizes the fact that Danny's in Boston.
Yep.
Sonequa Martin Green's character, Lena, is so strong and so good that she's someone that he can relate to because of her family in law enforcement. He can admire and respect because of her work and her dedication, which is so much like his. And that can make him feel like he's working with, an equal in a new world where he can be with his son and become part of this family and make him, again, experience some of the things that he misses out on at home.
Yeah. I love Sunika so much. She's such a great actress. I loved her in Star Trek. It's so good to see
Yeah,
her on this.
she's an amazing friend and so good, so good, and that's what we wanted for the show. Part of what what was important to us developing this show was that it could stand on its own 2 feet. If it was just a Sean Reagan spinoff without Danny, could we love these characters and love this
Mm.
world? And I think we found the cast that can allow that to happen.
Yeah. Well, there's one more thing I'm going to talk to you about before you go, and this is a selfish one for me. And that is because one of the most formative movie going experiences of my life was when I saw The Sixth Sense for the first time.
Hmm.
And so I need to ask you about that experience because, I mean, as like a 11-year-old boy, it was completely traumatizing for me in like the best way, in the kind of way that like makes you realize like movies should make you feel and make you think and make you be disturbed. But I just like want to know what it was like to be shooting that in your tidy whities. You're sort of new to acting at that point. It's such a disturbing psychological role. Like, what do you remember of shooting that and of that time?
Well, I remember one thing is that when I pitched not being clothed, I pitched no tidy whities either.
Oh, that was you.
Oh no, yeah, yeah. No, the character was written to be basically in the clothes that you see strewn about the floor, like
Okay.
goth kind of t-shirt and and like dark, very goth kind of kid, sort of shielding himself from the world, like from the ghosts that we learn later that he saw just like uh, Haley Joel Osment's character did. So I had actually pitched it to Bruce Willis first and said, I think my character should be nude. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, like, he's been hiding from these ghosts his whole life and he's coming to stop hiding. He's ending it all. And why hide behind these clothes anymore? And Bruce was like, that's awesome.
That should be your instinct for every role.
Yeah. So we told Night Shyamalan and he was like, that's amazing. So I began the process of losing, not in, I didn't know what number I would lose. I just had to transform myself and to look like I had suffered. And I had to physically suffer, I thought, like the character. I had to get away from home, get away from all the comforts and just suffer. So I would literally went to New York to Joey McIntyre's apartment. I didn't bring any credit cards. I just brought a little cash to get by, and I basically would starve for a couple days at a time, and then, drink some beet juice, and then walk around the streets of New York and just, try to live this lonely existence that this character might have had. And I lost 41 pounds. And here I am. I told Knight I was going to transform myself. And when I showed up to play the part on the day, he passed by me and didn't recognize me.
That's awesome. Wow.
And then they told me you have to go to your wardrobe fitting to try on your clothes. And I said, well, there are no clothes. And they said, no, you have to wear clothes because the movie's going to be PG-13. You can't be naked. And so they had all these clothes and all this stuff. And I said, please, no. I think it's right that he's not dressed. And they said, well, he has to be dressed in something. I said, well, how about some old tighty whities that he's probably had on for the last 6 months and never even cleaned them once? And they agreed to do that. And yeah, and it wasn't just about the clothes. I mean, I really kind of tortured myself for a month and a half, and ended up losing 41 pounds
Jeez.
total. Um, and it was, yeah, I was really in a lot of pain on the day. And, you know, Bruce Willis was so amazing. Like, I can't imagine anyone else being on the opposite side of the camera than him.
Hmm.
He had done a movie where he lost weight. He knew what I was going through. He knew, like the first few takes, just tears were pouring down my face. I didn't even have to act, but eventually I was so dehydrated, tears wouldn't even come out anymore. I was emotionally crying and there were no tears left because I was so dehydrated. And Bruce was like, you got to do this and you got to try that. And, he was like, just helping me throughout the whole thing, and even gave me tips on how to ease back after the filming. He was like, you got to take your
Oh,
time. You
that's
can't start
great.
eating everything you want. You have to build slowly because your stomach is shrunk. So you're gonna get distended and stuff if you just eat anything you want. And, like, he was just so wonderful and helpful and supportive, right? It's like a lot of other actors
Hmm.
to go into a rehearsal and say, "Hey, Bruce, I want to stand opposite you like naked."
Hmm.
A lot of other actors have said, "Yeah, that's not going to happen. You're not going to steal my thunder in this scene," But he wanted what was best for the movie.
Wow.
And he wanted that. He knew that scene had to be impactful or the movie wouldn't work. And so his support was really everything. And it was probably a big part of why I kept going when I was, like, literally curled up, under a park bench in the middle of winter, like lying there sleeping, under a
Oh
park
my
bench,
gosh.
starving, because it was like, I want to do what I promised to do for this part. I want to go there and put it all out there. And literally all of it, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. But
Uh,
I'm glad we wore the underwear. I don't think I thought that through. That we'd be talking about other things 40 years later instead of
well,
or
that's true.
25 years later.
Exactly.
It's been a journey, and, like, making this move uh, to Danny Reagan in Boston, it wasn't a no-brainer. I
Hmm.
think it was an emotional decision. It took a lot of thought and a lot of work and a lot of writing and effort, and uh, the fact that it's going well is really great, and the fact that people are supporting it and anxious and interested to talk about it, like yourself. And I know it was tough to say bye to Blue Blood for so many of us, so the show meant a lot to me too, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, you're making a lot of people happy by coming back. So thank you. Thank you so much, Donnie Wahlberg. I enjoyed the conversation so much. I can't believe I got to talk to you about The Sixth Sense, about the Super Bowl, about New Kids, about Blue Bloods. It was so much fun. And what did you think? Did you watch the Super Bowl? Do you have anything negative to say about it? Shut up. I don't want to hear it. But please tell me what you loved. Do you watch Boston Blue? Let us know in the comments. We love to hear from you. And of course, please make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at The Obsessed channel. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you think I'm a little bit funny, maybe follow me on Substack at obsessed.substack.com. Thank you to our producers, Devin Rogerino and Rachel Passer. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.